First CleanTech Summit. I'm Chris Delanis. I'm co-founder here at VenturePad and your host. This is the first time that we've had a summit here, and so we're just kind of trying it out and winging it, frankly. So bear with us. This ain't the Oscars, folks. But we probably won't announce the wrong winners either. So that's I guess a good thing. How many of you were at our Sustainable Enterprise Conference in October? Good. It's great to see all of you. So this is sort of the stepchild of that conference. Our intent was to bring folks to a more intimate gathering. Smart, connected people. I love them getting together in small venues, right? Sometimes you get a little lost with these big conferences. So we wanted to try these out. This is the first summit, which are, again, VenturePad located, intimate gatherings of smart, connected people. So, again, it's all, we're a startup, guys. We just celebrated our first year anniversary last week. Guess what? We're cash positive. Anybody got a startup? Cash positive is good. I got a crow a little bit. Last night was a really special night for us. Alejandro, my co-founder, was helping with the TEDx salon. Anybody go to that salon? Yeah, it's been a pretty powerful program over there. I was at Peacock Gap, and the State of the City dinner was there. And it's probably one of the largest business gatherings of the year. 400 people gathered together. We had all of our elected reps, except Kate, unfortunately.
Sorry, I was busy.
You were busy. But David Connolly and Jared Huffman, and McGuire and Levine, and, it was packed. And it's a wonderful evening because we really recognize our individual contributors, volunteers of the year, employee of the year. This was put on by the Centerville Chamber and really co-hosted by the city and the Chamber Board. So we had the honor of winning the Green Business of the Year award. Not bad for a little startup. So I was real pleased about that, and I had no prepped remarks. I was drooling as usual, but I don't think they caught it on camera, so it was good. Anyway, so there's some really esteemed alums who have won this award. Bellum, has been around forever. One of the very first ones, CFI, California Film Institute, won. We had MCE, won a couple years back. Bob Herbst over at the Centerville Airport, the biggest private solar farm in the county, or the first one in the county. Who am I missing? I think, anyway, we just had a great evening. I was very proud of the team and what we've been able to accomplish here. So it's a good couple days for us, for our little startup. So thank you all for coming and supporting us. We're going to a little bit of housekeeping. So anybody that want to connect to the Wi-Fi, it's at the back of the program, and we're trying to sort of divide the nodes up so everybody gets a nice crisp, big fat connection. So you kind of look at it in terms of just alphabetical, and so we divide it up into 3 groups if you want to connect, so we don't put 60 people on one router. Anybody use AT&T for their cellular service? Okay. So AT&T has blessed us with a dead zone here. So we do Wi-Fi calling, right? So connect your phone to the Wi-Fi and enable Wi-Fi calling. And the instructions are on the back there too. Okay, you're all caffeinated, you're all fed. That's a good thing. Like I said, we're going to be a little kludgy in terms of logistics, and I don't have a big expensive AV team here, so bear with us. We're going to have some great speakers this morning. They'll do some individual presentations, and then I'll facilitate a little panel. We'll have them sit up here. And let's keep it informal, guys. You know, let's just have a conversation. We're small enough that we can do that. And you can ask some questions, there's no stupid questions. So if you have some, sort of CleanTech 101, that's okay. If you have something around, a complex issue, that's okay too. We will try to stay on time. It's tough when you open it up to questions or when you have lots of interaction, but we'll make do. So the program is we're going to have some comments by Supervisor Kate Sears, who's with us today, and Alejandro and me. And then the program is really about three major sectors in CleanTech: renewable energy and storage. And Tom Willard with Sage Renewables, Robert Gould with Solarcraft, J.R. Killigrew with MCE are going to lead that charge. They'll present some of their thoughts on where the opportunities are, especially for the business community, what the local government can do to promote that technology and promote distributed solar, especially. And then the next one will be around transportation. And Davis, Transportation Institute there, UC Davis, has just come out with a book on the 3 revolutions in transportation. Have any of you read that? I know Kate, you have. Anybody else read it? Pretty good book. I mean, it really talks about the revolutions in transportation: shared, and electrified, and automated, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have some emphasis on EVs, as well as the charging infrastructure for EVs, right? We've got to kind of get around the anxiety around range, and Marin, to keep up with growth curves in EVs, has got to put some strong infrastructure in place. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to have finish up with green buildings. Green buildings are both residential and commercial, are probably close to 25–30% of this county's GHG emissions. So both between going deep green, energy efficiency, putting solar on roofs and carports, they have a big impact in terms of meeting our climate goals. So we have some real great expertise around green buildings and beyond green buildings in terms of even carbon sinks in our built environment. So it's pretty cool stuff. And got some real expertise in terms of building as well as designing. And then we're going to have a little briefing on what Sonoma County is doing around the Santa Rosa rebuild, and what Sonoma Clean Power is doing to electrify new homes. Pretty cool initiative. I think we can really learn a lot from that. So that's the program. We'll take a break for lunch. We've got some great healthy food from Taste Kitchen and Table with Lorenzo Jones. And then I'll let you eat in peace. You won't have people droning over your food. And then at 12:30, we're going to have Gil Friend speak. And Gil, how many of you have heard Gil Friend before today? So Gil has been around forever. He is considered as one of the co-founders of the sustainable business or sustainability movement. Author of hundreds of articles of my Bible for green business, The Truth About Green Business. And he is currently the Chief Sustainability Officer at Palo Alto. I mean, doing some moonshot work over there. I mean, it's just pretty amazing. So he's going to come in and talk about his experiences in going from 40 years in consulting to big companies and local governments, but then now going to government, right? Which can be very different and can be difficult. But I think he'll have a really interesting perspective and what they're doing and what it means even for us, in lessons for Marin. So that's the program. We'll finish up where we'll have a little bit of networking afterwards, and please visit with our sponsors. We have 5 great sponsors, and wanted to recognize them. And MCE and Solarcraft are our anchors, and then Sage and COM, the county, are also esteemed sponsors. So please give them a hand. Speaking of thank yous, what a team we've got here at VenturePad. I'm so proud of them, and I wanted to recognize Alejandro, our co-founder. Leon, where are you? He's back there.
Leon's our graphic designer.
Yep.
He's great.
Yep. Anybody need graphic design? He's the man. Larry Tackett. Larry is the co-chair for the Sustainable Enterprise Conference. So if you enjoyed that conference, he was the lead on that. So just a great team. Can our volunteers stand up? Be recognized? There's a couple volunteers for each. Back there. All right. A hand for them, please. All right. Alejandro, I think you wanted to say a few remarks. Alejandro Moreno, co-founder, polyglot, man about town.
Good morning and welcome. I'd like to talk about VenturePad usually briefly, and there's always one word that comes to mind when I nutshell VenturePad down to one word, and that's community. And we've been focusing on building community here from the get-go. Some of you may remember San Rafael lost a couple of entrepreneurial communities back in 2015. And so Chris and I have both had kind of the vision of giving those communities a home again and a place to go forward, but with a more sustainable, economically sustainable, and all-around sustainable plan going forward so that we have some lasting power. How many are here for the first time at VenturePad today? Yay, great. I'll come out here because I'm too small for this table. So we have about over 200 companies now that have used VenturePad since we opened. Used VenturePad, that means they've either signed up as a co-working member, where they basically rent desk space month to month, or they've booked a room. We have conference rooms, meeting rooms here from $20 to $50 an hour, or even $100, depending on how big a room you need. We've had experts speak at our lunch and learns. We do lunch and learns every first and third Thursday of each month, 12 to 1. Bring a bag lunch. There's all kinds of content from soft skills to harder skills, SEO, marketing, personal branding, financials, and whatnot, all geared towards the small business entrepreneur. We have entrepreneur support groups the second and fourth Tuesday of every month from 6 to 7:30. That's a great little group for people to bounce ideas off of and get feedback if you have a startup, or if you know somebody that has a startup and they need kind of a poor man's advisory board. It's a great session. And then we're still accepting co-working members, so please, if you know people that are working at home and it's not working out, if you know people that are still going to the cafe and it's really not the best environment, please send them our way. We have our incubator. So one of the things that got closed down a couple years ago, actually 2 incubators did. We're going to do that again here. We're launching it this summer. We intend to provide training advisors, service providers, networks to go from idea to market traction, and very much kind of a handheld incubator. We're really trying to cater to local startups. So this isn't Silicon Valley, this is SF Tech, and we don't pretend to be, and we know it. So we're keeping that in mind. So this summer, if you know anybody interested in the incubator, just send them to venturepad.works, not .com, .works. And then just look for incubator in the menu, and they can sign up there. Signature events besides last October's Sustainable Enterprise Conference is today, this CleanTech Summit, and then we'll have a Get Funded, or basically getting access to capital, in June 13th. That'll be at the Community Center down the street here on B. And then we will do the Sustainable Enterprise Conference again October 25th. So please save those dates, June 13th and October 25th. Please support us with your sponsorship, attendance, and good word of mouth. So that's it from me. Thank you for being here. And first,
I'll be introduced. Let me introduce Kate. Kate Sears is Southern Marin's elected representative on the Marin County Board, and she's serving her third term, right?
So year 7.
Year 7.
So it's like
Re-elected
two
in
plus.
June of 16, right? And I love working with Kate. Got to know her and her team recently this past year, and have really appreciated her efforts to spearhead the county's climate action plans. And you know, Kate is in a district that is very vulnerable to sea level rise. So she's really leading the charge to assess our vulnerability, potential solutions, and boy, talk about a complex issue of addressing sea level rise, right? We've got an ocean front and we've got a bay front, and both of those fronts, you know, present some real challenges from a government and a collaboration perspective. So we really appreciate what you're doing in that regard. She heads the board of directors currently at MCE Clean Energy. Does a fine job. I mean, what a showcase organization that is. That's a startup, right? I mean, you know, that's not been long in public utility terms. So we all should feel really proud of that organization and the leadership behind that. So Kate has spent much of her career as an attorney, right? And highly educated. And I gotta tout a little bit of this because I was kind of blown away with the accomplishments. A BA in Asian Studies from Carleton, Master's in China Regional Studies. And we're expecting Mandarin.
Oh, sure, yeah.
University of Washington, PhD in political science from University of Michigan, received a JD from Harvard, Fulbright Scholar, Distinguished Teaching Award from Harvard. Not bad.
I was avoiding the job market.
Come on up. Kate Sears, ladies and gentlemen.
I hope everyone can see me. I'm going to stand back here so I don't have to juggle paper. And thank you for that warm welcome, Chris. As I said, I have all those degrees because I was really avoiding the job market. So I appreciate all of you that are actually out there in the business world getting work done and probably started at an early age. But I'm really particularly pleased to be here in a group of business people that are committed to creating a clean economy and also considering climate change solutions and creating community. These are our major issues for this time, creating a better community than we have, a more unified community, and dealing with climate change. And I'm really pleased to have a CleanTech conference here, and I want to set the stage a little bit and sort of reflect on our history of accomplishment in Marin, what we've been doing, and then tell you about our new initiative, Drawdown Marin, because it really touches on everything that you're going to be talking about today. So from my perspective, this CleanTech Summit really stands at a pivot point between Marin's past achievements in environmental activism, innovation, and really creative, visionary, out-of-the-box thinking, and the strategies and actions and practices that we now need if we're going to develop a thriving clean economy, address climate change, and nurture the next generation. Marin has been a leader in so many areas. I think many of us are aware of many of them, but when you sit and reflect, it's really quite amazing. So think of these areas that we've led on. Organic dairies, curbside recycling, carbon sequestration, the human potential movement, green building practices, distributed solar energy generation, the local food movement, healthy lifestyles and wellness, and of course Marin Clean Energy, now MCE, and the incredible expansion of community choice aggregation organizations that's just happened in the last year. It's truly amazing. And we've had entrepreneurs and innovators in Marin for decades. And so let's just think about a few of our grandmothers and grandfathers, not that they're that old. So Stuart Brand, creator of the Whole Earth Catalog and the Long Now Foundation, which among other things is building a genetic rescue toolkit for conservation. Paul Hawken, who created Smith & Hawken, transforming the garden supply industry, and also created One Sun, an energy company focused on ultra-low-cost solar based on green chemistry and biomimicry. These are folks that have been creative visionaries for decades and are still thinking big. And then there's Brad Black and Susan Griffin Black, who created EO Products, a cornerstone of the global wellness industry that's now located in space that once was George Lucas's Star Wars studio. Now that alone tells us something about Marin that's hard to actually describe what it says, because it tells us a lot, I think, about our community and who we are. So all of those few entrepreneurs, there's many, many more, and the many who have followed after them, including all of you in this room. And the strong environmental values of our residents and our businesses continue to urge all of us forward. So this past fall, Marin became the first county in California to have 100% renewable electricity for its county, town, and city municipal accounts, including all public buildings and streetlights. We did this by opting up to Deep Green, MC Clean Energy's 100% California-sourced renewable energy service. Also last fall, the Redwood landfill in Novato cut the ribbon on a new state-of-the-art plant that closes the loop on waste by turning the methane gas produced by Marin's trash, which was previously flared into the atmosphere, into electricity. On the transportation side, Marin Transit is piloting 2 electric buses, and the County of Marin is installing 41 more EV charging stations. We only have 3 right now, but we thought big, we needed 41 more. That's 31 for the public at the Marin Civic Center and 10 for our county fleet only at our own stations on our campus. And this summer, the county will be engaging the public about how best to manage the growing popularity of electric bikes for recreation and commuting. And then last month, our Board of Supervisors approved updates to our county's Green Building Ordinance. It implements the county's climate action plan by supporting a transition away from natural gas towards all electric buildings, adding zero net electricity standards for large new single-family homes, and emphasizing EV charging capacity. That ordinance will be updated again in 18 months with our next 2020 state code cycle, at which time we're going to continue to push the envelope because we've really just started on being more creative and more future thinking. So all of these actions, both Marin's past and present leadership and what we've accomplished, require innovation, collaboration, and engagement, and that's what we're really all here today to talk about. And that's also exactly what we need to take the next important step that I hope you all will work with us on for Marin. So in October of 2017, we launched Drawdown Marin, which is a community-wide campaign to really dramatically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and become the first fossil-free county. To the extent possible, we want to eliminate fossil fuels across all sectors, electrifying everything, powering everything using renewable energy, and sequestering as much carbon as possible using existing as well as new and innovative strategies. So we were inspired to launch this campaign by Paul Hawken's project Drawdown, which I hope you're all familiar with. Well, that project's comprehensive plan to reverse global warming that lists 100 technologically viable existing solutions to global warming. And it's really aspirational and it's really positive because it gives you steps that you can take. As far as we know, it's our belief that we are the first community to try to take some of the ideas from Project Drawdown and really embody them in a locally relevant way. So this is a bold and ambitious idea and campaign, but we really think that we can do it. But we can't do it unless we have everybody in this room and really everybody in the county working with us to help reduce our fossil fuels. So I want to tell you a little bit about what's the components of Drawdown, because you're going to be discussing many of them today as this conference goes forward. So we have 6 strategies. The first is 100% renewable energy, which, as I mentioned, simplistically really means the electrification of everything. Yeah, you can read the first part, mine. So we're going to electrify everything, right? So that's all heating and cooling systems, and make sure that all appliances are powered by electricity and not fossil fuels. We also will focus on local and community solar generation, distribution, and storage. The second strategy is low carbon transportation. Obviously includes the rapid adoption of electric vehicles, which Carlene is going to tell you more about very soon. Comprehensive EV charging infrastructure, including in particular in multifamily buildings, expanding ride sharing and car sharing options, making sure that we have walkable and bike-friendly communities. We talk about that a lot, but we really got to make sure that we have all of our networks completed. And then having autonomous vehicle policies that emphasize shared, connected, and electrified systems. The third strategy is energy-efficient buildings and infrastructure. So the goal there is to make sure that all existing public, residential, and commercial buildings are retrofitted for energy savings. And I hope JR, one of our good folks from MCE, is going to talk about energy efficiency. We want to make sure that new construction meets net zero energy standards. We want to make sure that there's ongoing funding to incentivize energy efficiency, including for lower income and multifamily properties, and that our infrastructure utilizes leading technologies for future adaptation to climate change. The next strategy is local food and food waste. The goal there is to first check on who's calling about food. Well, we want to make sure that Marinites consume a high percentage of locally produced food. I think many of us do already, because obviously that has positive benefits in reducing transportation impacts, supporting our local farmers and our economy, and it's just healthier for us. And really, perhaps even more importantly, we'll want to reduce our extent of food waste. You know, in Paul Hawkins' Project Drawdown, he had 200 experts and scientists and activists who ranked the impact of different actions on greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. And the third most impactful was food waste. So it's really important that we focus on that and make some dramatic change. Our next area is carbon sequestration. We want to make sure that livestock are managed to reduce methane emissions and produce energy instead. And we have a lot of our great ranchers in West Marin, including in particular Albert Strauss, who's been a real leader in this area, who are focused on scaling up their practices in reducing methane emissions. We want to make sure that organic waste is locally composted and reused. And we want to have carbon sequestration practices adopted on agricultural, forest, and open space lands, and get all of us to plant more trees. And finally, the last strategy is climate resilient communities. And I'm sure you could tell, you know, all of these strategies are interwoven, they're interlinked, they're mutually supporting. Climate resilient communities, in some ways, is really the umbrella for all of these other actions that I've been talking about. So, what's a climate resilient community? And I know everybody in this room will have an idea about that. But to me, it means our social, cultural, economic, built environments are resilient to the impacts of climate change. Marin sustains a robust economy and a diverse workforce. Our open space and natural habitats are managed to reduce climate impacts. And our fire, flood, and drought risks are lessened, and our communities are prepared for emergencies. And that's a really important piece. Those of you, I think we all were paying attention to the North Bay fires, so we all know that many of the victims were people over the age of 16 with disabilities. And that really tells us about the importance of community and networks and paying attention to the neighborhood that you live in and making sure that we have the relationship structure so that we truly are resilient when we need to be, and we help others, and we're working together to be resilient in all ways. So all of you in this room has a role to play in this campaign and in all of these actions. As I mentioned, this is ambitious, and we really need everybody's help. I've been very excited. We did 3 days of county budget hearings last week, and the difference over a couple of years ago in terms of the collaboration between people in our various county departments, we've really been working hard to break down the silos. We need to do that community-wide. But we also really had a commitment and an attention to addressing climate change issues, whether it's sea level rise, it's drought, it's more frequent fire. And we had the theme of equity and community. It was really embedded themes throughout everything that we're doing at the county. And so going forward, this is really, it's not just about, we'd like to lead and inspire, but we can't accomplish anything unless all of us are really truly linked together and working hard. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of your ideas today. Help me move this, help all of us move this initiative forward. And thanks for being here.
I just realized that you all can't see us over here. I mean, or can you?
Get the profile.
Sorry. I could move this forward, but then I'd have to, like, put sauce on the spaghetti wiring here. Yeah, so if you can bear with us.
Oh, we're good. We got your best angle.
All right, let's start with renewable energy and storage. Robert, I'm going to have you come up first, and then we'll have JR and Tom. Alejandro, did you want to do intros? If we have time afterwards, we'll have a little Q&A of the three of them. So, yes, I mean you. Let me load you up. You can stay here for a second.
Tech happens. Robert Gould, some of you may know him, Director of Commercial Sales at Solarcraft. He's been in the solar industry since 2005, developing, designing, and supervising the installation of commercial and residential solar systems. He's now focused exclusively on developing and managing Solarcraft's commercial solar efforts. Over 20 years working in sales, marketing, product development, and organization development in green and socially responsible businesses. He also holds an MA in sustainable management. Robert Gould.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come up front or do you
I'm not sure. We'll see how this goes. It sounds good, right? It seems okay. Okay, good. I'm sorry if I step back and you can't see me directly. Like Chris, it's probably better you get it from the street. I'll say too that not only am I just a solar guy, but also we've been involved with the drawdown effort and feel very privileged to be supporting that and being of service to it. So even though we're a solar company, we're people and parents as well. So we are huge fans of efforts that go well beyond just solar as well. So whatever your thing is that's contributing to the greater good, we love it. Thank you. Let's see. So this is going to be tricky because I'm not. My eyes are getting a
So
little
this will fool.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't see it though. That's the thing. Okay. This will be fun. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have to toggle between eyes and glasses. Just a little bit about Solarcraft. We've been around for a while, 34 years young in the sense that we were founded 34 years ago by Bill Stewart and Dennis Nutman as a kind of a basic contracting company. And I say young because we are now in our second year of being employee owned. And as I'll go into a little bit later on in our slides here, we really are in the process of transforming ourselves as the whole industry and the whole economy around energy is shifting. And we really are becoming more of a clean energy solutions company, not just solar panel guys, so to speak. And we're learning how to do that still. We're in process. There's so much going on. It's a little bit, if you're in the weeds of this day to day, you know it's pretty it's pretty overwhelming at times. It's exciting, it's daunting, and we feel actually fortunate to be in the kind of in wrestling with it and being in the good fight, so to speak. Let's see, we do both residential and commercial PV systems, as well as we started with pool heating systems, so that's still a thing. It's still very good from an economic and an environmental standpoint. And we also provide a lot of services for those customers that have had orphan systems. Our own customers, we have over 7,000 of them, but we also adopt a lot of orphans from other solar companies that for one reason or the other couldn't make it locally in the market or moved on. Over 130 commercial solar projects. That's, when I say commercial, I mean nonprofit, government, and commercial wineries as well. We are a very local solar company, and we are proud of that fact. We're not as, I'd say, we're probably not as sexy as some of the companies like the Solar Cities and Teslas out there. But what we found is that we provide a lot of value because we're here in Marin. We can't walk away and just go to another market. We really are, we are required to, in order to stay in business and have a good reputation, to really take care of our customers and to continue to support them over time. And with that, we also have learned that this whole idea of leasing systems, which is kind of a cool idea to, ways to get into this, get solar for your home, is really not a great financial choice for most businesses and homeowners, because really the owner of the system is the one that benefits the most. So what we've done is kind of, while the market was zigging, we've been zagging, saying, look, you should own the system, you should just do a basic loan, don't lease to somebody else, because you're going to give up a lot of money and value doing so. There's a good reason why a lot of smart bankers want to own solar projects, because they're a good investment. So if nothing else, just take that data point and drive that back to, I should own it, not somebody else. Sorry, this is a little bit of a commercial, I know, but I have to try to do that before our CEO. And I think too that we also are not a one-size-fits-all kind of company. We have very customized solutions, really tailored to the site requirements, the roof, the ground, your budget, how you want to integrate it with your roof and so forth, your financing. So we really pride ourselves on going to the extra mile to really make sure the project really fits your needs and your site. And I want to kind of get to this bigger point here, is that we really are wrestling with all these incredible changes that are happening in the world. And right here locally in Marin, one of the things that I think is really driving solar is both the concern that things are getting out of control climate-wise, that we really are getting in trouble, and the federal government's not really going to help out. So there's a lot of effort locally. People are really kind of stepping up. We've seen a lot of interest from the faith-based communities, especially, as well as a lot of businesses really kind of stepping up to the table. And the other side of that is that the cost of solar's come down about 80% in the last 10 years, which is incredible. Drop in the cost of energy, and it makes it a lot more affordable to go solar these days. It's just a much less of a capital-intensive investment. One of the other kind of, that's on the good side, one of the complexities is just dealing with CCAs and MCE, and up in Sonoma County, Sonoma Clean Power, and when someone looks at their PG&E bill, they're like, oh my God, what is going on here? It's already complicated enough, and now you add this other element into the equation. It's a lot to help people understand. And we see MCE, just so you know, we love MCE, especially for those opportunities where people can't go solar. They're renters. They live in the shade. They aren't going to stay in the building for a long term. And we think that deep green is absolutely the way to go every chance you can get. And by the way, is it all the cities now that just went deep green in Marin? Awesome. That's great. Let's see. What else do I want to say about it? Actually, Tom Willard will get into these rate structure changes that are having a big impact on solar storage, and the need for storage, as well as how EVs fit into the equation as well, both for evening charging and daytime charging. And I think the thing that's interesting for us is that solar's really become a mature, proven technology, And in some ways, isn't so sexy anymore. It's kind of weird because there's all this enthusiasm around EVs, AVs, storage, zero net energy buildings, 100% renewable energy, buying, RECs and offsets from, if you're a large corporation. And solar is actually kind of right there in the eye of the storm there, saying, look, we can provide a lot of solutions, whether it's on your home or business or at the utility scale with MCE. And a lot of this, as Kate was saying, is if you're electrifying all your uses, then it's got to be powered by green power. And that could be, biomass or methane or other things that we are talking about here. So solar, again, is not the only answer, but we think it's becoming more the answer, just not the sexy thing that everything else is. So we just encouragement to remember that that's an important part of the equation as well. Let's see. I guess that's really all I want to say, but it's kind of the setting context for us is that we're really in the thick of it right now. And actually, how'd that happen? Here's just some examples of some of our projects. I'm focusing here mostly on commercial scale because that's what we are dealing with. So you might recognize some of these sites. Spirit Rock Meditation Center, Hess Collection Winery, Redwood Credit Union, Medtronic, Hog Island Oyster Company, which is everyone's favorite customer. They just love going to see the site and having oysters. Let's see, what else? And this may be familiar to you as well, but solar is no longer a new thing anymore. As I said, there's literally, probably by now, almost 5,000 commercial projects in California. And many of those are in PG&E territory. There's over 41 megawatts of commercial and residential solar in Marin already, as well as rooftop systems. And the power is less expensive than what you pay from the utility. Now, you do need the tax credits and so forth to kind of make that economic case, but it really is true that it's cheaper in almost every case than staying with the utility. So if nothing else, what we see, and you see a lot of large corporations, they rationalize going solar because it's a great price hedge. If you look at the volatility in the market with energy and with the renewable portfolio standards and so forth, it's pretty complicated, and typically it's going up. Power costs have gone up, anywhere from 5 to 10% over the last few years, every single year. And this is just a great way to kind of lock in your power at a low cost. And what we're seeing over about a 25-year time horizon, if you look at us, because that's the warranted life of a PV system, that if you went with a solar system, your average cost of energy is about 4 to 6 cents a kilowatt hour over that time. That's all in cost, replacing inverters, cleaning the panels, so forth, versus staying with the utility where the average cost might be upwards of about 30 cents a kilowatt hour. That's average over 25 years. Of course, today most prices are closer to, 15 to 18 cents a kilowatt hour for most businesses, and it's probably closer to 30 cents or 25 cents for residential, something like that. So from our perspective, it's a great way to lock in your power costs at a low price and then reinvest that money elsewhere. Some of the other benefits, even though the federal government has been not very friendly to renewables and climate solutions recently, what we're seeing is that the tax reform that just happened has really helped in two ways. One is lower tax rates mean you have more money to invest in capital improvements. And the 100% depreciation that's available for those improvements is you can write that off 100% of it in year one. So you get that benefit of it right away. Most depreciation schedules for solar tend to be more in the 5-year schedule or sometimes even longer. So it's a real great advantage from that perspective as well. I have to say, some of our customers are really excited about the idea of I can see the solar on my roof. I know it's producing power. I can see the meter spinning backwards. I know it's really happening. I get it. It's right here in front of me. Even though there's no noise and moving parts and bells and whistles, they love that experience of believing and seeing that it's really happening versus buying credits or something can seem a little abstract at times. So that's the other thing that we're seeing this customers telling us that's important. And one thing I also want to say is that, and this comes back to this notion of the more that there's solar purchased in the county, whether it's from Solarcraft or someone else, or any other EV infrastructure or EVs for that matter, there's an economic multiplier effect that we have to also be accounting for. It's not just greenhouse gas emissions, but it's actually the dollars that are no longer being spent at PG&E or no longer being spent with Chevron, right? That's coming back into the county. I mean, literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that are flowing back through or staying in the county from local companies, local efforts. So it's, and I would love for somebody to actually do a study on MCE, because I still think that you guys are having a huge benefit for the county just economically alone, even if you got rid of all the green goodness that goes along with it. So I think it's a very exciting time, and I think we need to be constantly looking at the ways that any and all these efforts really serve our community in terms of the social, the economic, and of course the environmental, ecological benefits of all of them. That's how I think we're going to kind of make the case to those that are not in this room, those that are not like quite totally sold on this green stuff. So, and that's how we're going to kind of just pay for it, I think, basically, which is kind of important. And I also want to say this is important. It's it feels a little awkward at times talking about it, but I do feel like kind of our community, our children, the younger folks that are in this room here are really calling on us to really step up and take leadership and be responsible citizens, to be great citizens, if nothing else, if we're not necessarily want to call ourselves leaders. And that whether you go solar or you develop a composting program in your business, that you just do something. You just step up and take it one step at a time. Let's see. Anything else here? Oops. One last project I want to end with is this is Sonoma Academy, right up in Santa Rosa. They just barely survived the fires. They were right at the edges of it and surrounded by it quite a bit. The system, and that's not smoke though. I think that's just kind of fog in the background there. But the building in the middle is actually the first living building challenge building in the North Bay of any real scale. So living building, if you know LEED Platinum, they're not really LEED Platinum certified or compliant, but they are light years beyond LEED Platinum. It's a net positive energy building. There's both solar there and a green roof. The solar looks pretty small if you know anything about solar. It's not taking up a lot of space. So actually there's on the back side of another building, a gym, that's where most of the solar is, plus a large ground mount array as well. That we were fortunate enough to work with them on. But they're also net positive in terms of clean water. They have almost no, I mean, literally when we were on site, they're like, no duct tape, no. No waste material of any kind, no. No toxic glues with any petroleum in it. No lubricants that are petroleum based. So at first we're like, you've got to be kidding me. This is just so hard to kind of do. And then once we realized, then it was like, hey, we're going to help you do it. We're going to figure it out together, and let's just learn together. And it was really, it was a great example in what can be done for future generations, and just literally a living example of the way forward. So the future has already arrived, and it's right here in the North Bay. So I think that's all. I have a little bit more time for questions and answers. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, and I hope to actually meet all of you guys in the room today. So I guess we're up. Yeah, we're up. Next
Thanks,
one.
Robert. All right. JR, you want to come on up?
Our next speaker is JR Killigrew. JR is the Community Development Manager for Marin Clean Energy. JR interfaces with a wide range of community stakeholder and customer groups, conducting climate action planning support, greenhouse gas reduction strategy, and strategic outreach efforts within Marin Clean Energy service area. Prior to this, he served as membership lead to the iClay USA member network, providing tech support around emissions management and related software tools, climate action planning, and sustainability initiatives. He also is the first sustainability coordinator for Sustainable Bolivia in Cochabamba. where his work focused on spearheading the organization's first sustainability report, greenhouse gas inventory, and short-form documentaries, highlighting Sustainable Bolivia's educational commitment to the local Bolivian community. Jair holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Pitzer and is highly proficient in Espanol.
Hi, everybody. I remember how fun that was to be in Bolivia and how that's translated to where I am right now. I think it's pretty amazing to see how somebody who's kind of wandering around through life made it to such a cool place in his life. So anybody who's wandering right now, you can do it too. Well, I wanted to say it's a privilege to be sandwiched between two leading solar professionals. I'm kind of humbled to be on this panel with these two stalwarts in the solar industry, the renewable industry. But today I wanted to share with you from MCE's perspective what it means to be the market catalyst. I think that's ultimately what we are and what we do. We want to provide programs, opportunities for people of all walks of life, businesses, big businesses, small businesses, residents, to take advantage of this renewable energy revolution. And I just wanted to kind of lead on that thought first, because that's what we are, that's what we pride ourselves on, and that's what we have been able to do in the state of California. Being the first community choice energy program to launch in 2010, now there's 7 others. I think there's a few more that are launching this year. And it looks like by 2025, 85% of the electricity customers in California will be served by a beautiful, diverse array of community choice programs from the north to the south. So just think about that. In 15 years, what kind of work a little startup could do in Marin. And I just want to give a big shout out to all the folks in Marin, all the advocates, all the people here who believed in this mission and how it's going to reform and revolutionize the energy markets in California. So kudos to all you folks. I did also want to say, how beautiful is that slide though? That is from our MCE Richmond Solar 1 site that just turned online at the end of December, which I'll talk to a little more, but I'm just always enamored by the beauty of the vastness of these commercial scale solar arrays. So I think it's really just a beautiful way to start off today. Does everybody know who MCE is? Yes? Okay, I don't need to do that part. All right, good. But also I wanted to talk about what it means as this market catalyst to provide opportunities for businesses, commercial scale entities, residents and whatnot, to take advantage of unused space, unused products, and turn that into a revenue stream. What I would really like to highlight is that even though we launched in 2010, and from the course of 2012 to 2017, we had all of these projects come online, about 20 megawatts, to power 10,000 homes. That's just in 5 years. That doesn't count all the net energy metering, rooftop customers. I mean, it really goes to show you that as a market catalyst, we can unlock all these opportunities for these businesses that they otherwise would not have. And I'd like to just highlight the fact that the majority of these projects are in Marin. So I think that's a big kudos to Marin to take advantage of this great resources that we've had. So the catalyst behind all of what we look at in terms of the renewable energy movement would be our feed-in tariff program. This is an opportunity for businesses, small or large, to take advantage of unused space. That could be a rooftop, that could be a parking lot, it could be vacant land that they own, and turn that into a revenue stream. We provide really great pricing, we provide a fixed 20-year term, and right now, based on our board, we actually expanded this program out, so we have a 2-part FIT program. We have projects that go up to 1 megawatt, which usually powers about 300 homes. We've also expanded that from a 1 to 5 megawatt program. So now developers who are looking at more scalability, bigger projects can now take advantage of that. That's the first time we've been able to provide that. And I think it's a really exciting opportunity to now have an additional 30 megawatts of available renewable energy through our feed-in tariff. It really is just cool to think about all the opportunities that are available not only in Marin, but also in Napa and Contra Costa County now. So I wanted to highlight a couple of really interesting case studies. The Cost Plus Shopping Plaza, they actually signed up, I think back in 2014. They got into the queue pretty early, got really favorable pricing, but the building owner wanted to leverage their rooftop space to turn it into an income stream. I mean, that's really what this program is all about, is taking unused rooftop space, being able to capitalize on the tax benefits, and then turn that into a really great revenue stream. I mean, I think it's just a great, great story. And then additionally in Freethie, in Richmond, this was an interesting project because at the time we were only allowed to have, or sites were only allowed to have up to 1 megawatt. And they were able to kind of get 2 different interconnection agreements with PG&E, thanks PG&E, Joe. And be able to have now 2 sites that had 1 megawatt each, but a total of 2 megawatts, powering about 600 homes. So it's a really great kind of innovative case study of how they were able to kind of work around some of the parameters that we have. But it's great to know that we now have up to a 5 megawatt feed-in tariff opportunity for businesses. Now, if there are any businesses in the room, our feed-in tariff guru at MCE wanted me to share the keys to success. And these are accurate and somewhat and humble keys to success. But again, best ways to make these projects happen: low cost of capital and definitely low cost of land. That is probably arguably the most important piece to this. Do you own the land? Or if you're going to get a hold of land, can you get a good piece of the pie in terms of making it cost effective? Secondly, the ability to monetize the tax benefits. As MCE is a not-for-profit public agency, we can't build solar arrays because we can't take advantage of the tax appetites. That doesn't mean we're not going to work with developers who can take on the tax appetite. That's a big kind of impediment for nonprofits, not being able to take those tax benefits. Humility. I think when everybody's launching into a type of renewable project, you need a little bit of humility, and you need to be able to manage expectations. So I just wanted to put that in, give a little smile for everybody. We also mentioned that it's better to own, but you can lease the land. There have been some projects where developer came to a project site, saw the potential, and realized that this could be a good opportunity to partnership on. Again, we just want to highlight that we provide a secure 20-year contract, and we are an investment-grade entity. We're moving through the process of hopefully getting a credit rating, which does help a lot of people understand and have a little more faith in us. Then finally, two last components would be a great tax attorney with experience in real estate projects. So I don't know, Supervisor Sears, if you have a little background.
I like to sue them.
All right, oh no. But then finally, an experienced team who knows construction and knows the interconnection game with PG&E. I had the pleasure of sitting on a panel with Robert and our friend Joe Herr from PG&E. We're in this game together to work together to make sure that these projects can get interconnected. So as much as we're about the market catalyst to get the projects done, they got to be interconnected. They got to make sure everything gets set up safely and correctly. So we appreciate that perspective as well. And then finally, I definitely wanted to give a shout out to any rooftop solar customers there are. At the commercial scale, if the feed-in tariff doesn't work for you, if you can't enter into a power purchase agreement with us, we still want to focus on the ability to take advantage of our net energy metering or our rooftop solar opportunities for commercial customers. So again, for businesses out there, small, medium, big size, you've got a lot of great options in Marin County right now, so we just wanted to share with you those today. And on that note, I think we'll wrap it up and send it over to another expert we have next. But thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody coming out.
Next up is Tom Willard, CEO at Sage Renewables. In 2013, Tom co-founded Sol Ed Benefit Corp. Sol Ed's another local Centerville company. And he wrote the project financial models used to structure power purchase agreements and lease financings that reduce the cost of renewable energy projects for public schools. In 2005, he co-founded Solmetric, a company that developed the Sun Eye, a high-precision instrument now widely used in the solar industry to measure shade characteristics. In 2005, his brother David founded Sustainergy Systems, and when Tom joined his brother in 2009, it became Sage Renewables. Tom. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom, got a forward the slides.
Excellent. Okay.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Jared. That's great, and Robert as well. Let's see here. The slides. This thing is not running now. There it is. Okay.
So back here to see this?
Oh, I'll figure it out. That's great. So I'm going to talk about the boring stuff, which is what's actually happening today on the grid, which is causing the development of these projects or not. And I'm going to start out by talking about what's happening with tariffs. This is how utility companies, MCE included, charge for power. And that's how renewable energy systems create value. So I'm going to start off there with tariffs. I'm going to talk about incentives, legislation, the utility tariff update, that's the big one, incentives, legislation, let's move on. So I'm going to jump right in with what's happening on the utility side of things. We have two monitors. I didn't realize we had two. I thought we only had one. There we go. We got to see it. So what happens on the grid generally defines what happens in the tariffs. And we can get into a large argument about this if you want, but let's just assume that's the way the things work right now. And what's happening on the grid is there's something called the duck curve, which Robert mentioned briefly, which is as we bring more and more solar onto the grid, and this is the big grid, the transmission grid in California, we are offsetting the amount of energy we need in the middle of the day. And you get this big dip in the middle of it. This thing, somebody thought it looked like a duck back in 2008 or something like that. And so you can see over the years, as more and more solar comes in, and that's primarily utility scale solar that's coming in and pushing the center down, we're getting to the point where there's actually too much solar on the grid in the middle of the day in spring, in fall, and sometimes in winter as well. So that excess energy in the middle there is actually changing the price that utilities ask us to pay and when we want us to pay for it. So what's happening here is that these prices are following that marginal generation that they need to add to make up for when the solar is no longer there in the middle of the day. So what actually happens is when the sun goes down, solar plants go down, the generation falls off, they still have residual usage that everybody's, your air conditioning's still on, you're coming home from work, the lights come on, and so there's that spike at the end of the day. And what the utilities are doing in the California Public Utilities Commission they're changing around the way these things are structured so that they're giving us, the customers out there, a price signal not to use energy during those peaks because that's an expensive part. So things are shifting around. And let's see, 3 big tariff changes coming here. Shorter summer seasons. Right now in PG&E territory, it's 6 months. They're going down to 4 months. The next one is that they're going to TOU periods. Right now it's 12 to 6, which is a good chunk of the time when solar is producing. So if you have solar out there, you're getting the highest peak in the summer. But that's being pushed out to 4 to 9 p.m. So most of your solar production is not going to be in that peak. And the last thing, and this is just as important as the time of use period changes, is that the rates themselves, the differentials between peak rates, mid-peak